You've eaten Gotham's wealth, its spirit, but your feast is nearly over.
This is not my home. It's an operating table. And I'm the surgeon. Why aren't you laughing?
From this moment on, none of you are safe.
Welcome to the Batman Book Club, a podcast exploring the Dark Knight Library. I'm your host, Ryan Lauer. The Batman Book Club is a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network, hosted by Batman on Film. Just go to batmanonfilm.com, click on podcast. You'll find the Batman Podcast Network that's full of a whole list of other Bat-related shows. They also love to dive into other nerdy subjects we all love to frolic about in our free time. And the Batman Book Club is also a part of Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/thebatmanbc if you would like to help support the show and help keep that generator running and the Wayne Manor study. Now, thank you for listening to episode number 95, Dark Knight, Dark City. Joining me for this discussion, this guy is Let's Go Everything. He's a gotta go. He is the Lego Lawrence to my Lego Joker. It's Justin Kowalski.
I love that I'm Lego Lawrence.
Lego Lawrence. You got the. Let's be serious. You got the boombox up.
I would throw that boombox up in the air, bro. Like,
nobody cranks a boombox like Lawrence, and if someone does, it's Justin Kowalski. Thanks for returning.
Lawrence mustache. Oh man, I'm always glad to be back.
I love having you back on. Sorry, I do believe Pete Vera has a very healthy lead of guests on this show, but right behind him, fighting for second, I think you and Garrett are duking it out. The old Dukaroo.
Yeah, I think Garrett has more, but I got nothing to prove, man. I'm all about quality.
Oh,
I'm about quality than quantity.
Than quantity. Okay. I can't say that there has been a bad episode yet, but maybe somebody wants to write in and say that.
I'm just talking about. I'm a better
Garrett
person
episodes
than Garrett.
are, those Garrett episodes. I mean, we covered the Earth 1 books. They're a little amphibious, if you know what I mean.
Oh.
They're full of snakes.
Those Earth 1 books. They float in the water.
You're like, wait, what are you talking about here? Anyways, I think the last time you were back on, I mean, it was the fun horror month in October.
That's right.
Which is really funny considering the book that we're going to talk about, but we'll get into that. But I have to ask you first, Justin, before we dive into our main subject here, what's some Batman that you've been reading lately?
Yeah. Nothing. I haven't even been reading the monthly, man.
Okay.
I kind of fizzled out on it. It's just not capturing my heart, bro. So I've just been reading I love my streaming comic like apps, and so I've been going deep on just early 90s Batman stuff, kind of.
Yeah.
Like actually, what got me into it. Well, when y'all did the Tim Drake episode with Andy, like the Coming of Robin, I just started like, I wanted to go like read through that again.
Sure. And
because I wanted to look at the cover, because I always remember the cover was like, it looked like his costume was like orange or something. And then I just went in a deep dive, and I've just been going through like the end of that Brayfogle into I think it was, there was some, Tom Lyle did some stuff. Anyways, yeah. So I've just been kind of burning through that. So all classic early 90s Batman, because
revisiting the old stuff, the hits, like, oh my gosh, and that Brayfogle, Alan Grant run, like, oh my gosh.
Alan Grant's, we had this we were talking about this on our thread last week. I feel like he's like one of the unsung, him and Doug Munch, like I wish, people would remember them sometimes when they make those lists.
Yeah,
so
I agree. And I think, I don't want to say that there's this in a negative sort of way, but I think I did bring it up with Andy on that episode of maybe they don't necessarily get the credit that they deserve because, they almost do have just like standalone issues instead of, hey, coming out, they just released in hardcover, I don't know what you'd even want to call one of their arcs or something, like a highlight. This is the book to get people in. Instead, it's like a long stretch. Oh yeah, Batman issues 451 through 463 or something like that, which, I mean, doesn't sound as sexy to say that rather than just the title of a Batman book.
Yeah. But that's how comics were then. It was just, it was serial storytelling, and there wasn't a lot of there was the year ones and the Lonely Place of Dyings, and then back into like, oh, the Crime Smith story,
Yeah.
like just what's happening. And so, anyways,
I
DC got wise.
I fully support your decision. It really kind of made me want to jump into some of that era again because my gosh, those are, I mean, early 90s. My goodness, I love it. Well
Yeah,
done.
just
Good
good
job,
stuff,
Justin
man.
Kowalski.
Yeah.
You passed.
Sorry, guys, but I'm so
Yes.
excited for Batman because Chip Zdarsky is taking over soon, and I love Chip Zdarsky.
Yeah. That's great news.
Yeah, that's amazing news.
That's hyped. I'm
Yeah.
a big fan of Josh Williamson's little 4-issue arc. I really like that and a lot because I was with you as sour on the title for quite a while and don't need to rehash all that. But Williamson was a nice, fresh, what do you want to say, drink. And then, Zdarsky coming. It's like, man, there's the Mountain Dew I've been waiting for. So
yeah, there you go.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, enough with the appetizer. Let's get to the main dish, shall we? Let's start talking Batman Dark Knight, Dark City.
Oh, yeah.
As we kind of comment a little bit, they were released in Batman issues 452 to 454, released in 1990, written by Peter Milligan, art by Kieran Dwyer.
Dwyer, yeah.
Okay.
That's how I'd say it.
Kieran. Okay. And covers by the great Mike Mignola. They were released physically, as I said, 1990. It's been the issues have been collected into trade paperback. They're available digitally. They are available on DC Universe Infinite. They're also on the greatest app in the world, Hoopla.
Hoopla?
Yeah. Justin Kowalski, which version did you read for this episode?
Okay. I tried to get my actual physical copies, but it was becoming like, I don't know how I'm going to do this right now. Like, I would have to lift like probably 20 boxes of comics to get to my Batman 90s box. Anyway, so I went to my DC Universe Infinite, had kind of a problem finding the first part of it. Okay. And then I searched and they actually have a collected, I'm going to show you, my friend.
Yeah.
As it spins. Oh, no. Like they actually have a collected edition of the whole thing. Oh, never mind. I can't show you the cover because it's in the middle of where I left off. Let me see here. Yeah. Anyways, it has a collected edition of it on the digital version with a random story about Bruce Wayne not finding the Batcave at the end of it. It has no connection at all. It's just like, here's a weird story.
We need to throw this in here. We need to fatten this collection up a little bit.
Yeah, they released it in the early 2000s. I don't know why. I don't know what prompted them. I think they were just doing like these 100-page spectaculars and like, oh, we'll put out a story people like. And so.
Very cool. So, I believe so. I actually bought this because it had to be 2014, 2015. So not too long ago, but not very recently. I bought it through Comixology and it was the collection, the digital version of the trade collection, which I went digital. So that was a very beginning of me getting some digital stuff because that physical trade was hard to find.
Really?
And I don't know if it's still hard to find. I didn't look. I just knew I had it digitally. So
yeah, it's one of those stories, man, that I think if you've been reading Batman for a while, they're like, oh, it's kind of a hidden gem.
Yeah.
So
I feel like it's gotten its, like when this first came out. So in 1990, I was going to turn 4. So I don't remember what was going on specifically in DC Comics world, but I kind of feel like the past decade, that's how I hadn't heard about it. So I got into Comics Monthly again in 2006. So it still took me, like 7-8 years to even hear of this story. And it really started to get like a resurgence, I thought, from people. So I don't know what sparked that, but good on you, people. Because also this leads into I'll save this for 2 questions later. Do you remember? I just kind of revealed when I first read this. Do you remember when you first read this?
Yeah, I caught the tail end of it when it came out. I got some years on you, so I think because the story I remember, I don't know if it was the second part that I had, or I think it was the end, and I was like, "How does this start? This is crazy, right?" Mm-hmm. And I remember I had a gift card to a comic book store that was like not even in my city, to the city over, and my dad drove me all the way out there, like 30 minutes to spend like $10 or something,
I gotta
right?
use this, Dad. Use $10 in gas so I can
remember
spend this.
Oh gosh, I remember this guy. Like, this is why comic shops have closed, because this guy sucked. He was like, "What is this? Is this a story within a story, or is it a special? Is it a special like miniseries? What is this?" And I was just, "It's Batman: Dark Knight, Dark City. I need like part 2." And, like, he had no idea what I was talking about, and I'm like, "Bro, like comics, man. Like, what's going on?"
What a guy.
So
Wow.
yeah, so he sucked. But yeah, I finally like was able to get the other 3 issues, and it was just kind of a bananas like
Mhm.
interpretation. It's probably like my first real Riddler story that I read,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Like, that, to my knowledge, like, it's like, oh, this is a Riddler story. This is weird. And plus, a lot of it probably went over my head because it's a little dark, man. This is kind of
Yeah.
actually, I feel like it's in the realm of some of the Grant Morrison like weirdness, especially when you get
Yeah.
into the Barbados stuff or whatever. But anyways,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. Mine, like I just said, mine was probably like 2014, 2015. And then why did you choose Dark Knight, Dark City?
Well, Ryan,
Yeah.
pulling the curtain back, because we were trying to plan for October creepy stuff.
We
I was
sure
like,
were.
"Ooh, I got one." And you're like, "Well, wouldn't it be better to finish the trilogy?" You're right, producer
Yeah.
of the show.
But I mean, I
Yeah.
don't want to force you to do it, but also like, well, you started the Batman Red Rain trilogy, don't you? Do you want to see that through, and then you'll just come
Yes.
back for Dark Knight, Dark City, and you're like,
Yeah. Well, you were like,
all
"Hey, let's do
right."
it leading up to the Batman. There's
Yeah.
Riddler. It's a Riddler
Exactly.
story.
And then it was like, let's drop this around the time of the Batman because people will be hungry for some Riddler content. And here's a story that maybe not everybody knows about. It's
But I know
actually
that sucker Andy DiGenova wanted to do it.
perfect transition. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's a couple episodes
I heard him
ago.
talking smack. But you
He
know
did.
what?
It
He just
was
had a
funny
baby
because
girl, and he needs to be taking care of her, not talking about this.
exactly he
Did him a
doesn't need to
favor. I
be
did him
talking
solid.
about what happens to infants while he just
gosh.
has an infant. So I'm glad we might have spared that a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that was funny because we talked about that episode of how it was like, I'm down for whatever. And I'm like, well, you're the guest. Feel free to choose, what story do you want to choose? You're the guest. That's what, like that's how this goes. So he says, how about Dark Knight, Dark City? And I'm like, not that one though. Sorry. And then, I told him Justin Kowalski. And he's like, oh, that son of a bee.
That's me.
But very cool.
Yeah.
So this is a relatively short story. Sometimes I love the long epics, but sometimes I like the little palette cleansers of 3-issue arc. And this, like you said, this is a pretty dark story. And this is a Riddler story, which I still don't think that we get enough Riddler stories. And because it's so spaced out, so I first read it, and I've probably read it once since then, and then now. So it's a total, I forget what happens. And then opening up to that first page, and I'm like, oh, this little chestnut, in which, how have you always pronounced it? Barbados?
I was calling it Barbados.
Barbados? Okay.
Like the getaway. But I could be off.
I wanted one audio version just so I know how this is pronounced, because I know, as you mentioned, it's very Grant Morrison, and Grant Morrison, this opening sacrifice, the ceremony of the bat that runs through all 3 issues of this story. Grant Morrison hijacked and manipulated a few things for his run, more so in the Batman and Robin run, I believe, where Dr. Hurt was a part of the ceremony of the bat. And I think he may have dropped the H, so it was more Barbados there instead of Barbath, Barbat. I don't know. Barbate. I don't know what it is. That's kind of would you say like that's the seed, the root of this story then is the ceremony of the bat, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's
okay.
I mean, we can, it's when you get
hop all over the place, say whatever you want.
I was just going to say it's all predicated on the fact that Riddler came across his book, like, intrigued by it. And, everyone has an obsession with Batman and Gotham. And so, but it's also, when you kind of, I don't want to spoil all the way, but like there's a little bit of a revelation at the end where it really has to do with Gotham City. I feel like the book was just the thing that triggered, but it felt like it's always there. And I think that's the stuff Morrison kind of tapped into. I wanted to go back a little bit though. Like, so Peter Milligan, who wrote this, he's part of that British invasion of comic writers. They kind of came in the 80s and did some crazy.
What's some other stuff that he's written? His name sounds familiar.
Yeah, I mean, one of the cool things I love that he did this really cool version of X-Force for Marvel.
Okay.
He did a lot of like Shade the Changing Man. He did a lot of Vertigo type of things. And I'm trying to think. I feel like he did some Elseworlds stuff too. I'm having like I know he did Justice League Dark. He did Human Target. He was like yeah, I would say a lot of his stuff was like Vertigo first. He's a weirdo. And I mean that in the best way. Like, he's definitely not like your typical like, comic book writer. Like his issues came off the Marv Wolfman. There was a little stint of Marv Wolfman, who's like one of the all-time greats in comics, right? Like, and then you finish his like kind of Return of the Joker story, and then you get this Riddler story. Such a great time, by the way, in those comics. You got like Riddler, you got the Penguin Affair. That was all around this same time, I think.
Got Harold.
And then
shout out Peter Vera.
yeah. I know. He loves that one. Go check out that episode. But you jump into that story. It's such a different. There's a lot of prose to it. It's weird. It actually kind of it feels like it belongs in the same world. Not the same world, but like as we went through those vampire stories, like the Batman.
This is an Elseworlds for sure.
Yeah,
it feels like it could be.
It felt like it could be, except with the modern stuff. Anyways, he's a great writer, and he definitely can't write like 12 issues of Batman because I think you would lose people. But a little 3, like a pit stop to tell a creepy story, fits him perfectly.
That's a good exploration in the sense of a 3-issue. I mean, that's roughly what the Red Rain, each bat of those books are, isn't it? It's roughly like almost like a 3-issue. That's just enough to get
almost
to really go wild.
80 pages. Yeah.
To really go wild, because I don't know, it's like, it's only 3 issues. I'll give it a shot. And so, yeah, I think you make a good point with that. And when you're saying that this is more about Gotham, I do remember reading it this time that I thought this the previous 2. And I always get a little confused in who's narrating this, because I know that they do in the internal dialogue, they color the boxes different, but I thought that there were at times where was it like this the voice of God and Batman, their boxes were the same colors. The voice of God and Gordon's boxes were the same colors. I think Gordon and Batman's boxes were kind of the same color, and not like the talking to each other dialogue, the internal dialogue, jumping with that. And I know that would kind of confuse me a little bit, because the voice of God part is very like, wait, who's saying this? Like, what's he talking about? And then you start to realize, is this Gotham? Is this the bat that the ceremony was trying to conjure up, which plays into already. Yeah, Justin, this would have been a very valid pick for October.
Like, it's creepy time.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's strange in that regard, but then I kind of feel like if it went on any longer, it could have maybe started to get me a little frustrated or lost. And that's when it brings it back to snap back to reality. Okay.
That's right.
And we get either with Batman or we catch up with the Riddler or something like that. And the Riddler's inclusion here, why do you think, like, now this book, so we're over 30 years later, why is it catching so much fire now for like, a Riddler story? This is like top tier Riddler story.
Yeah. I honestly think because it's a very well written story. It's Batman figuring out some crazy honked up riddles, right?
Yeah.
I can't think of a lot of like great Riddler stories off the top of my head. When someone says name a great Riddler story, this is it. This is the Riddler story I think of. I know he's in Hush, and I know he's in some other he had like an arc after Hush where he kind of became a detective, like for hire type of situation. But those aren't great Riddler stories. They're like, oh, that's just Riddler being like a supporting cast character. I can't off the top of my head think of like some amazing Riddler stories, except for like
the Riddle Factory.
okay,
Matt
well, we go.
Wagner's
Okay,
The Riddle Factory. Do you remember that?
there
one
you go.
I'm talking about.
So there's that. There's that, and then the War of Jokes and Riddles, which I really liked from Tom King.
I did
the
too.
Joker and then the stuff I didn't care for some of the stuff from Zero Year.
Agreed.
Yeah, so I just think it's hard to write a good riddle story, I guess, and for it to not be goofy, like, it's a gorilla in a tree, Batman, that type of stuff. So, and this story pushes Batman to really uncomfortable spots, and yeah, man, I actually feel like I couldn't believe like when you reread it, you're like, man, I read this when I was way young. Like I wouldn't let my son read this now. And that's about how I think I was a little younger when I read this.
Yeah.
Like a year younger. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like
it's a trip.
Yeah.
And I think I totally agree with you in the sense of it's the challenge to write a Riddler story is like, well, you have to write riddles, and then you've got to write good riddles, in which there's such a payoff as a reader as you think like, the writer's challenging me. Let's see if I can figure out and solve this riddle. And I never can. I am not smart with riddles. And but I love that the big aha moments at the end in which, you go on this whacked out adventure where you have Riddler having Batman has to do these, clear these hurdles, and they're wild too. And then you learn at the end, Riddler kind of explains them all, connects the dots for you, and which makes it then fun to go back even and flip through the three issues to see, well, I'll just list them. So it all takes part of the ceremony of the bat, in which this thing that's intercutting with the story of this 1790 something or 70 something.
Yeah,
Thomas Jefferson. There's some history for you.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson rolls up. That's the thing. I love that Thomas Jefferson's a part of this shenanigans, dude. They're like, and then he pieced out. He ran away.
Yeah, 1765. A group of occultists. Jacob Stockman and Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
And they go through the mill on the sacrifice to try and control a bat. And the 5 things that they have to go through, or 6 things, I'm sorry, is kissing the lips of a hanged man, bathing in human blood, dancing with the dead in a danse macabre, Batman R.I.P., slaying a wild dog with a silver dagger, slitting the throat of an unbaptized child, and dancing a Sabbath dance in front of the devil, represented by a horned goat. So that's pretty wild. That's not your typical Friday night.
Yeah.
But we get such weird but also understandable adjustments to each one of those steps that the Riddler has, manipulated himself.
Yeah, he's all still counts.
Yeah.
Like
it works.
Yeah. I think out of all those, so I guess we can run down some of them. Like,
sure.
The weakest of the Riddle challenges was Dancing with the Dead, because obviously this is a Batman comic, and even though there's fantastical things like Solomon Grundy is a dead dude, I was almost like, man, it would have been great if he had Solomon, Grundy wrestle him in the graveyard or something, right? But Riddler somehow just gets some Disneyland androids, and one of his henchmen to lead him through it. So.
Yeah,
that was the weakest, but I got it. There had to be some type of conceit, but I was like, part of me was thinking, well, why didn't Milligan just write something that was a little less of a hang up? Like, why we had to lean on what are those things called? Animatronic zombies. Like, why did we lean on those? So I'm wondering, was these 5 rituals based on something in history, some type of real creepy hidden 1700s
let's start the
Black
Thomas
arts.
Jefferson book club podcast, and we'll really uncover what he was up to.
I don't know what's going on. He's like, I'm gonna get into politics. There you go. So
I like that one because I found that one to be fun.
Gotcha.
I don't disagree with you though. They threw one, I forget what his name is, they threw one guy, dressed him up like all the rest.
Yeah.
He was the sacrifice, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, each step, and then visually, it's kind of stunning. I mean, there's such a charm in early 90s art, I think, in comics. And I'm not even talking about when you get the headliners of, Breyfogle and when Jim Lee later on in X-Men and stuff. I'm just thinking of the whole era. There's a charm with it.
Yeah.
But when Batman goes to the blood bank, and this is for the bathing in human blood, and it just everything bursts, and he gets covered in blood and blood splattering like everywhere. It's freaking blood. So that being everywhere does elevate things to a very horrific setting, to a horrific level. And it's like, oh, wow, damn, Batman's covered in blood. We already saw that in Red Rain.
It's the Blood Trilogy.
The Blood Trilogy.
I'm only going to do comics where there's blood involved. There you go.
From here on out. There you go.
Blood Brothers. Blood Bat Brothers.
Blood Bat Brothers. I like it. It hurts. It's art. It's a comic. It's fake, but him stabbing the dog where he does, that's pretty sad.
Yeah, so
it's pretty brutal.
That was one of the ones where I'm like, would Batman stab a dog? Like,
agreed. Yeah,
I feel like he wouldn't.
We saw him in The Dark Knight. He just took and threw a dog.
He threw a dog.
He'll throw him.
Stab. Yeah. So yeah, okay. So that's why I wanted to kind of go through some of these situations. So okay. So we talked the Dance Macabre with the animatronic zombies, and a real guy, by the way.
I'm gonna find his name. Keep going.
Yeah, it's like Phil. I don't know. What it was. Some
classic
guy.
Phil.
Classic Phil. Then there is like you said, the bloodbath, which was freaking creepy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just like how the Riddler just hopped up on top, like, "Hey guys," and he drops a baby. That's what he tricks Batman into think. Oh gosh, there's 4 babies that are kidnapped, right? And it's actually a dummy. A bomb explodes. Blood gets everywhere. Jimmy,
even better than Phil.
Good old Jimmy.
Good old Jimmy. All right, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, no. And then then you have. I'll save the
yeah,
worst
we know which one we're
because,
saving.
Oh gosh, that one's tense. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
I remember asking my dad what that was because I didn't know how to pronounce it. Anyways, we'll get there. And then there is the dancing in front of the devil, which the guy got him the flip with a flamethrower. So Batman's doing flips in front of a goat in a hall of mirrors, like crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. It's so insane. Oh crud! What was the other one? So there was it's the Hangman one. That one I actually thought was real. Like that felt like the most straightforward Batman situation. There's a guy hung. Batman throws a batarang, slices the rope, catches him. Does some mouth to mouth, and it's heartbreaking because one of the things that's really cool about this is there's such a human element to Bruce Wayne. Not that we never get it, but we get a lot of human tortured Bruce Wayne in here. He follows up every victim. He goes to the hospital to make sure he checks up. I guess he could have made a phone call, but he's there with Gordon in the hospital. This poor officer, I saved his life, but his spinal cord was damaged. I'm like, dang, dude.
Whoa.
He follows up on the babies, that were kidnapped. I love that aspect of it. And just his, this is loner Batman right here. There's no Robin, this is post Lonely Place of Dying, but you're not referencing any of that stuff. You're just kind of is this before or after? I thought this is after. Yeah, this is after Lonely Place of Dying.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of getting just the last of the loner Batman of the 90s for a bit. And he's really delving into his role as the protector of Gotham. He does anything where he thinks he runs over the baby. That whole inner monologue I remember just, again, I read this when I probably wasn't psychologically ready to absorb this the right way, and I'm like,
his description of that, of he felt the bump or whatever and stuff. And it's like, oh my God, no, I don't think he did. He didn't. They wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, DC's like, no, we can't be running over babies, So, but yeah, any all that stuff was just, even where like I said, like where I have not an issue, but I feel like the animatronic zombies was the sillier of the moments.
Sure.
All this stuff gives it all such weight and terror, because with the robots, then there is like you said, was it Jimmy?
Jimmy
Literally has his neck exploded, which kind of makes him actually dead. Well,
Hmm.
he is dead, and so it kind of finishes that riddle. He did
Mhm.
dance with the dead. So yeah, man, crazy. Just that's why I think people love this story, or if they haven't, they need to read it now because it's wee a lot.
Yeah,
So
it's a
okay,
humdinger. And now the big one.
the big one. Okay,
Yeah.
so the one he has to slit the throat, right,
Yeah.
of an unbaptized child. Man, Riddler is crazy because even the setup of it is like, oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me. Like this is terrible. So they're trying to put ping pong balls into the little baby's mouth, right?
Yeah.
And so he's tricking essentially Batman into slitting the baby's throat. And so Batman has to perform a tracheotomy, right?
Yeah.
And I remember asking my dad, "What is that?" I didn't no idea what it was. I
I
was almost
don't
nervous to ask
remember
him.
what I first watched where somebody had to do something like that. And I mean, it wasn't a documentary. It was, a TV show or movie or something where part of it was having to cut open somebody's throat. And I was like, they killed him.
I feel like there was something recently that I just watched that had to do that, and there was this blood everywhere, but he was able to breathe. I don't know what it was.
Yeah,
but
it does seem
it was.
familiar. But man,
Yeah,
I didn't know. I didn't. And that was so eye opening to me because I was like, wait, what? You cut people's throats open to help them? That's against everything I have seen so far in my life.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that. And so, and especially he couldn't use a scalpel. He had to use like a dirty knife. He just got out of the sewer.
Gosh.
Like there's this, Batman's always ended up in the sewer, man. He's always like,
he
be
loves
prepared, bro. Be prepared. So that part was probably the darkest of the whole thing. And I'm like, dang. I think the one that I disagree with most is Batman killing the dog, but because he just did it so easy. Some rando hands him a knife in the bar, and all right, I'm gonna kill this dog, and then and the way it details the way the body slumps on him, the heart stops beating. Like Milligan goes descriptive, man. Milligan makes it like, he makes you experience everything with the details that as he goes through all these riddles. Like, Milligan paints a great picture of the process that Batman's going through. So as readers of the Batman Book Club, we're experiencing this trauma with Batman, and
just like they do in movies where they can cut away before they do it here. You don't see knife on throat impacts. You don't see that. The worst that you get is a couple splotches of blood that have splattered on Batman's chin on the next page. But yet we just described, so we actually see the visual of him stabbing the dog. We see all that stuff. And yet it's the thing that we don't see that stuck with us the most.
Yeah. Oh, DC's like, you can't cut a baby throat in the comic.
And that's effective. I think it was, was it Night of the Reaper, the Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil story I may have done with the sheriff, Ryan Haas, for October. And it was something I'd come across that Neil Adams had once said, you want to illustrate 3 seconds before the action.
Yeah.
And that was like the cover. That was his idea for the cover on that one, is the Reaper's coming down on Batman. And so I think here too is you see that knife really close to that baby and the baby crying. I mean, it's kind of a cross of like an infant, but then like an old bald guy's face.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not.
It's a very mature baby.
It looks kind of like a Tweedledee or Tweedledum there.
Mad Hatter's actually hopping around the corner.
Dwyer's not, his best illustrations are not babies. They all just look like, shrunken men.
But I mean, we just spent 5 minutes on this one alone. It's effective. I don't know if it's appropriate to call it clever, but on a level it is, of how he I mean, it's evil for sure, but what?
Oh, it's sadistic, bro. It's completely insane. Like, like
Riddler
what's going on
corrupted.
here?
This is how I've plotted this, which only kind of helps elevate him as a villain of how he's kind of manipulated Batman to.
Yeah.
Because you read these the criteria for the sacrifices, and it's like, yeah, there's no way Batman can do this.
Yeah.
But so, and he knows this too. So how do he tricks him into committing every single sacrifice, which I think that helps make this of like, oh yeah, this proves Riddler's intelligence, the depravity he's sunk to do this, which Batman comments on later, like in that last scene as he's tied up, and it's like, man, you've basically, I don't know verbatim, but he's like, dude, you've gotten all sorts of effed up. What the hell happened?
Yeah.
In which, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it, like, there was a little bit of, I feel like if this was a more modern book, like Batman would have been like, oh, he's read the ancient, Black Book of Gotham, that's what he's doing. He would have known right away,
True. Maybe he would have come up, he's aware of the ceremony. So by the third one, he would know of like, oh, I've done this, and then there's two left. I can't do it. Some kind of resistance. He's figuring it out. That's well said.
Which is kind of a problem, I think, because like I love Batman being like the best of the best, but like goodness, the guy knows everything. It almost makes it impossible to tell a Riddler story if Batman's an encyclopedia all the time. Like it's kind of interesting for us. I'm glad that he knows about it now, right?
Yeah,
like we can reference this story now if we need to, because that one time Riddler went nutty and read the freaking Black Book of Gotham. I just made that up. I don't know what it's called right now. I forget the name of it, but so I actually like that Batman's unaware of this stuff. It makes he's still the Dark Knight detective. He's still the world's greatest detective. He just didn't know about an ancient ritual book, and he's experiencing it now. And so I think it gives the story, it doesn't make it weak, because I can see someone going, well, how come Batman didn't know about this? I don't know, man. Like he just didn't, and it's okay.
I said, then we don't have a story. If he's perfect, then we don't have comics or movies. He has to be flawed.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just think it's almost like, man, was there remnants of this like sticking with the Riddler moving on? Would that have been cool? I don't know. For him to be kind of a possessed kind of character, it gives him an edge for this story, but I don't know.
It's perfect for comics.
Yeah.
I don't know how well that would have resonated going that far.
Yeah, moving on.
Well, remove the Barbados narration aspect. That's the supernatural part, I guess, because the flashback to the ceremony itself with old Tommy J. We're introduced to the idea, but it's like it cuts away before really telling us of like, and there was a big bat that showed up and talked and did his secret handshakes. It didn't go to that level. It teased us with it, then went to modern, then dipped back to it, then to modern. And the
supernaturally weird at the end.
Exactly. Then the end, we do get, I don't know if you'd even want to call it a payoff, but we do get the answer, I guess, a reveal of, is this BS or is this real?
Yeah.
That almost takes it the most horror element, but I really like that stuff. Actually, it's very interesting to me for like New England area, old like 1700s myths and what the witchcraft, all the stories coming out of there about that, and it's fascinating to me because so much of it does seem like, hey, that's nuts. How could anybody believe that? And yet so many people would. And so to have that be the foundation of the story, and then also to just like what they closed it off, and then Gotham has been built on that. The book that is on the bookstore, the library, Riddler finds that book that it was on that closed off where the ceremony happened. And that's cool too. That's historical. And then that would also be quite a revelation to find out if you yourself, it's full, was a poltergeist of you end up actually like, oh hell, we're on a cemetery. What am I doing here? I can't be here. I can't live here.
Yeah. The I going back to the payoff, I actually
Mhm.
thought the payoff was very sweet. Again, you know,
Spoilers.
yeah,
All right,
spoilers,
let's get
spoilers,
specific.
spoilers. All right, guys. So, we find out the girl, however, Batman's able to really give this girl peace. She's been suffering for 200 years now, right?
Yeah.
Like she's dead, but he encounters like I don't know if it's because of he's in the actual spot, he's in that cellar. I don't know, it's because of all the crazy demon stuff going on, but she's an actual person again, or at least he's experiencing her that way, right?
Yeah.
And she's talking to him, finds out her name's Dominique, and he's going to rescue her and let her rest in peace. And I love that he's able to put her in the family mausoleum, like
It's to me, it's a little allegorical in the sense of saving a soul.
yeah, he
Which
saved her.
The ideas of that and stuff in stories of that I'm into, and I don't know, I like it, I guess, because that's an unknown territory. Nobody has an answer for that, definitive proof and answers of that. So it's very interpretive. And this is such a great and this could play into such a, I mean, we've seen ghost stories and stuff like that where all of a sudden there's a person and it's like and then Batman's down there, and then this person comes alive, he saves her and gets her out, and then what's left in his cape, which I didn't remember the end coming, but I don't know if you can remember when you first read it, but feeling like, oh, she's gonna be Bones when he opens up and looks.
Yeah.
And then she was.
Yeah.
But that's not exactly like the point. Why isn't she, flesh and bones? And well, that's not the point. Got her bones to give her peace.
Yeah.
There in the Wayne Mausoleum.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you was, do you feel like when Batman, like, I feel like in some of these stories, Batman is very childlike in his approach. Not like he's like a little kid, but he just, I don't know. I feel like he's comforting. He wants to give her, he wants to give her like a safe ending. He wants there's even that there's that part where he's talking about, oh, I'm gonna go visit the baby. I might even make a silly face. He's trying to be kind, but like his internal monologue feels very I don't know. I want to say, I don't know if childlike's the right approach, but like, yes, he's still Batman. He's the Dark Knight detective. He's all those things. He's the Caped Crusader, but like, there's the damaged little boy that's there. And I feel like he's tapping into that a lot here because he's trying to like, how do I save this girl? That's why he's Batman. He saves that so it doesn't happen to anybody else. This is his chance to rescue her from, her tragedy. Going really deep here. But like, I just feel like the way he's talking to himself in his head towards the end, he's like, what the heck was all of this? Right. Was it the demon? He says like, does it even matter? He's like, what's the difference if it's a few demons? Like, my parents are still just as dead. Gotham is still Gotham, and I'm still whatever I am. And something I love about this, I don't want to say simplistic Batman, but he hasn't yet become the Batman who knows freaking everything. And like, as I reread this the other day, I feel like I missed that Batman who's still like 8-year-old Bruce, who's damaged, who's hurt, and he's just, hey, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. Still very capable, but he's not like the, what they call him, like God Batman, like as he became like early 2000s, answer to all problems.
Yeah.
He's still very human in his approach to things. And I kind of miss that. And I miss the little boy who's still trying to like squash his pain. And I think that's what you get at the end of this story is he's driven by his trauma. He's driven to save and protect people. And then there's something. I know it's a weird, like, supernatural ending, but I thought it was so sweet how he rescued her.
Yeah.
Like, and what that causes him to, process at the end. Like, man, this was weird. He's all saying this is weird. He doesn't say that, but I'm just like my interpretation. What the heck happened? Is it demons?
Well, his comment about he might make a silly face. I will take every day instead of I don't have a butler anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But I get what you're saying, and I think that's why a lot of people like to go and play Batman in early years, because I don't want to say it's less challenging, but there is a status quo of. I mean, they took away all of his money, recently, and I think this is like, well, that's how we can shake it up, because if Batman knows everything, like, where's our? I'm not saying that was a last desperate idea or anything. It was just that was a major shakeup, and I don't know, because I've never been one either of like if he's just the weirdest comparison here, but in one of the Friday the 13th. It was Freddy versus Jason, and it was like Freddy knocked Jason down, and then all of a sudden Jason was the little Jason that drowned, just shivering and cold. And it's a big, goofy, gory, fun horror movie, but I think what the point they were trying to get across there was like, oh, look at inside, he's still the little scared 6-year-old boy. Yeah, and that a little bit is like, I don't want that in this sense, because I think that for a Batman, because that takes away some credibility. As if he's just an immature child that doesn't know things, and he just knows to fight, and that's all. It's like I want some adult thinking intelligence and stuff behind it. But I do get the point of scarred by such a traumatic event, and just that wound's never healed in 25 years since then, or however long you want to say the story is. Yeah. The 90s had that, and I think I do like gaps of Bruce doesn't know, he doesn't catch on to Ceremony of the Bat until he's tied up and caught by the Riddler. Yeah, I like that there is that, because otherwise we don't have a story. I'm very easy to accept that Batman doesn't know something, because it's like, well, if he knew it, well, then the story's not as compelling.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't know what Tommy J was up to. That's okay. We didn't either.
And Tommy J, once he got wise to what was going on, he's like, "Oh, whoa, we can't kill this chick."
Yeah,
he's like, "I'm out.
I'm closing it, and I'm gonna write about it later, because that's what I do. I write."
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Agreed.
I don't know if I even really answered your question. I just kind of rambled and talked about Freddy versus Jason, and I don't know. We're all over the place in this one.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I'm scrambling, because there's a lot of different thoughts that kind of came to me. And so what I'm not saying is I hope I didn't say like, oh, I want childlike Batman. No. I actually like when Batman, he does something. He gets knocked down a little bit. Mm-hmm. He goes back to the Batcave. He's like, okay, here's what I need. I need to grab this. I need to put this in my belt. Like, he doesn't. Being a detective is discovering like answers, right? And sometimes like, I feel like he already has the answer, and I don't want him to always have the answer. I want to discover the answers with him, but I'm glad for him to be prepared the next time out. Like, we want to see him win, and we just want to see his discovery of answering these challenges. And that's why I think it's really cool about this story is you see Batman figuring these things out. I think he's definitely being manipulated, but I think like, it is because of where he's at in Gotham, and what this, there is some like supernatural elements, and that probably has a little bit of manipulation on him, and he's dealing with like, oh shoot, I got to rescue kids and
slit a throat, the whole deal.
Yeah. So I think a lot of that plays into probably where he is mentally. And so,
well, as you said, gets knocked down a few. I enjoy that, because if you look really deep into the character of where he's at in the as Bruce, like in the city where his status quo is like, he's a billionaire, He doesn't have a worry for his life, but it's reassuring for our appreciation of the character itself, and why he is one of our favorites is because he is very humanistic, and he could very easy not give a shit because he's like, well, I've got a mansion, I'm set for life on money, I don't really care. But instead it's like he's getting knocked down a few and gets up again. You're never going to keep him down, Chumbawamba.
I knew it.
But I don't know. That's a compelling story that makes you root for the hero. You know, it's relatable on a much smaller level. I've never been in the position to have to sacrifice a child, but you know, you have a hurdle, you don't clear it, you get up, you try again, and that's what this is. And there hasn't been a story like this since this, to where Batman's had to prove, well, actually, Thomas Jefferson tried to sacrifice a girl, and I saved Dominic. And I don't remember ever coming across Dominic in a mausoleum. When I write my Batman comic one day, it's going to be in there.
It'll be in there. Oh, I hope so.
Yeah. Dominic!
Batman turns around and winks.
And then does a little smile.
Yeah.
Do you have any other points you want to bring up?
Probably, but I can't think of them.
We went so deep you're spent.
Well, I think this is one of the best. I think I already said this is one of the best Riddler stories I've read, and I still think if there was a top 5 list of Riddler stories, this is number one to me.
Number one.
I think everyone, if you haven't read it, really check it out. It's a fun one too, and I love that he's in his classic Riddler digs. Part of me was thinking, I wonder if the story would have had a bigger influence on him. Like, would he change his garb at all? Like, at least a reverse, maybe black jacket, purple, question marks. I don't know. That would have been kind of corny. I don't know. There's something disturbing about being in his, garb and going so dark. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk some favorites.
Yeah.
Justin Kowalski, what's your favorite part of Batman Dark Knight, Dark City?
Oh man. A lot of it, it's just all of him. It's just all of Batman discovering the riddles and his inner process of how am I going to do this? Because it displays his capabilities. So yeah, I don't have oh my gosh, this whole scene was there. There's not a high point scene, just the tension of the tracheotomy. That is probably one of the tensest things I've probably read in a comic, and right? Oh my gosh, Batman has to slit this kid's throat again. Oh my gosh, why? But yeah, that definitely gives you some emotions. So
all right.
I don't know if it's my favorite part, but it definitely is a part that sticks out in this story.
Sure.
Yeah.
For me, I think is odd the ceremony of the bat. The original one from 1765, only because it has all those elements of that kind of folklore and stuff. For me, that is always a great basis for a creepy story. That atmosphere of that time period, and then in that you've got these nuts that think this is what they need to do, and then that panic and that craze because shit's at the fan, and it's that kind of stuff. It's a very good setting for a horror movie. So for me, it's very effective for that vibe and stuff too.
And we didn't talk about this, but they actually feel very reluctant to me. They're like, ooh, they want to do this, but then they feel dread about what they're doing.
Yeah,
again,
which is so relatable. So when people talk a big game and it's all right, now it's crunch time. It's
oh my gosh, what are we doing? I can't believe we did this.
I don't think I want to
me.
stab her.
Yeah. So it's just, I feel like it's a great example of the evil of Gotham. There's just evil in Gotham, and it's gonna get you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it got them, and they were repentant, oh my gosh, what are we doing? We can't do this. And I'm writing this down so that people know the evil we did. Mm-hmm. There's just no escaping Gotham's grab.
There's no escaping Thomas Jefferson.
There's no escaping Thomas Jefferson is.
That was a history teacher. I'd make him all read. You need to buy Dark Knight, Dark City. Okay.
This is very important. This actually happened, guys.
This is true.
What?
Okay. How about a
He was
favorite
in the
panel?
occult.
Oh my gosh.
My favorite panel. Yeah, it's going to sound funny to you because it wasn't my favorite riddle, but that last page, the splash page of issue 1, not issue 1, part 1, where it says the night is ours, and it's just like Batman with his cape around him and like zombie guy reaching out to him like through the graves. It's a cool
Justin
panel. There's not a lot of-
Kowalski.
Oh, is
That's
that your
mine
favorite
too?
too?
Yeah,
Shut
I
up!
screenshot that. I'm like, oh, I love that. I love that
Yeah,
picture.
Well,
That's good.
and here's the thing: there's not a lot of splash pages in this book. I'll
Mm-mm.
say, like, there's not a lot of like I feel like there could have been, but the story is very small. It's not a big story of Batman jumping through the city, right? There's that opening scene where the girl dies. Wasn't that a riddle too? Where she shows up on top of the police headquarters and then she falls like Batman.
Yeah,
Right. I think we missed that one because it was like the first encounter.
that was right at the beginning when Gordon and Batman were talking.
Yeah,
And I forget what her name was, what they called her.
Yeah, I forgot too.
Damn it.
Yeah,
We failed.
we
All right,
suck.
let's restart. Stop recording.
Stop
Let's
recording.
start all over again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty brutal too, because you see it as she's falling and Batman gets his bat rope, and he
that was something I wanted to bring up with you. That was
crashes
one of the things.
through Luigi's Ristorante. It's always Italian.
Hey,
always Italian.
So what is this? That was one of the things I wanted to say to you. I remember there was 2 things that
Okay.
I don't have my phone where I have my notes. My notes.
Oh no.
But this is predating Batman's grapnel gun. That's all. Like he throws a batarang, like dang, bro, with your rope. Like that's, I don't know how fast you can throw that, you know?
Yeah.
He doesn't start grappling around much until I think.
I'll say there's a Google question.
Yeah, I think I feel like the first time I remember the grapnel stuff is like Tim Drake era, when Tim Drake comes in. Like there's that issue where they're like going around the amusement park and when they start going on patrol, I feel like that's when he starts really using it. I could be off, but like I was very aware to like, why doesn't Batman just use his grapnel? You could have got that girl a lot quicker, you know?
Yeah.
He's just throwing batarangs with ropes on him.
And it's pretty brutal too. Because I mean, when you see it as, I mean, first of all, you think legs ripped out of socket. And then she goes flat, like flying through, crashing through Luigi's. And
Luigi.
It's like, she doesn't make it. There's no way that she's making that. So yeah, that's pretty brutal.
Yeah. I don't think it was part of the ritual, but it was like the kickoff. Like it was like what got him, like that was the first riddle, right? But the first thing was he had to kiss the hanged man.
So yeah, me, zombie, night is ours. Yours, zombie, night is ours. How about animated adaptation?
Yeah,
like
as long as it's a little, it's got to be, you know, pushing the boundaries of like what's appropriate. Like you can't get this at Target in the kid aisle, which they do all the time.
Yeah,
it's a cartoon. This isn't a kid film, y'all. Yeah, that's Batman. Kids. But
you need to put a knife close to a baby's throat on the cover so everybody knows this is not a kid's movie.
No. It's very Nolan, you know, because Nolan doesn't really show, you know, you just get like that done and like, and then
I don't know anybody who doesn't cringe at parts of 7 before the end, you know, and we don't see the stuff happen. So it's effective. I would too. Would you want one of the like 70-minute movies or would you want like an episode of TV?
No, this has to be this needs to be 90 minutes, man. You know, one episode isn't going to do this, isn't going to serve it well.
Because I mean, the structure of the animated series in the 90s, you know, it was almost like it was all 3 parts, and it's almost like introduction, middle fight, finale. And this is 3 issues, but there's, you know, in a sense, it's like there's 6 sacrifices that needs to be done. You can't cram that in 30 minutes. It's too much. So I think that they could do it, and they could have a lot of fun, really, you know, play out the zombie scene and everything too, and really play out some horror elements, stretch out the ceremony itself.
I just want to voice Thomas Jefferson. That's all.
What would your voice be like?
I would just I don't know. My Thomas Jefferson voice would probably I'd have to they're old, they're like old time, like 1700s, so they're probably very proper in how they approach things, right? So I don't know. I would talk like this. We can't be in here. We need to get out of here. We can't be sacrificing young virgins. This has gone too far. Stockman. I don't know.
Well, I had two ideas of one, just make him Arnold Schwarzenegger.
You got to get out of here now,
Dominic. But then I was trying to look up. I did not watch America the Motion Picture, the animated movie on Netflix. But I wondered if somebody in that, because Channing Tatum was George Washington, so I wonder if somebody voiced Thomas Jefferson. So there you go, because it would fit. It's all connected, so it would fit in perfectly.
It has to be Arnold.
Okay.
God, Stockman, it's just gone far enough.
I regret this. I closed it off and I ran away, and now I'm writing in my diary.
A symbolic sacrifice, I always thought.
Hey,
chill. The whole thing.
Chill.
He's all chill.
I was randomly throwing a Batman and Robin line. Why not? I like it.
He's all, kill the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you talking about?
The ceremony of the bat.
That's right.
Oh shoot! Do you have anything left to say before we head on out of here, Justin Kowalski?
Yes.
Any other thoughts?
My absolute favorite thing about this story is is the cover to oh gosh, I don't remember the issue number, dude, because I have that stupid non actual issue. I have the digital 454. I love that cover.
Yeah.
I love that cover. It's just the Riddler in his suit. It's like, what if Frank Gorshin went dark? Because the cover is like Riddler's got a little bit of gray in his temples. It looks like it's this issue right here, bro. Boom. I'm showing him.
That's a good one.
Like that. Mm-hmm. That cover's really cool. I think that's the first cover I saw. I think that's the first issue I got. Just sticks out. Anything Mignola does, he's got such a cool style, and the composition's great. Like just this ominous Riddler in the shadows of some bat demon statue. I don't know what the heck's going on there, dude. And just the way, Batman's illustrated, it looks really cool. It's that's a great image, dude. That's the cover of the animated like Blu-ray or whatever the heck it'd be.
Let's get it. I love it. Okay, I think this is a great book. I'm glad it's finding its audience. I'm glad it's celebrated. Because I'm a physical guy, I would absolutely if they really. I would really like it if they reprinted the trade of this and include what Justin found on DC Universe Infinite, where Bruce lost the cave. Because why not? We all have those moments, right? This is a great Riddler story when we need more great Riddler stories. So if you've gone this long and you've never read the book, it's still a joy to read. It's still worth reading, even though we've said everything. So track it down. Give it a read.
Yeah, but we were bouncing all over the place.
We were. We've really. I hope somebody like a history teacher has listened to this and was like, I don't know that Thomas Jefferson did that, but I need to check it. Thanks, Batman.
Oh, I bet you there is. I bet you there's some. If I would have thought about it, it was Thomas Jefferson and the occult. Sounds like a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Different times back in the 18th century.
Right. I'm actually going to check right now.
Please ask. Please do. Ask Google.
Was he a Federalist?
Did he partake in the ceremony of the bat?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What if it's all yes?
Yeah.
Was Thomas Jefferson in the occult? Primary, a plantation, it mattered, which ranged from mathematics and horticulture. Was he involved in the Constitution? No, it doesn't say anything about the occult. So, well,
all right.
That's fiction.
False. Damn it. I'll cut that out. So we'll tell everybody truth. No, I'm kidding.
True. Yes.
Justin, thank you as always for coming back on the Batman Book Club. I didn't
Always.
shout out yet that you've done a lot for this show. Always appreciated. That opening that everybody loves. Credit to Justin Kowalski, the logo that TeePublic almost wanted to take everything down, but loved your Batbook
They don't
logo
own me.
part. That's still up there. Yeah, all of it. Much appreciated, my friend. So why don't you go ahead and
Mhm.
plug away?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter if you would like at Justin M. Kowalski.
Justin
There you go.
Kowalski.
Spell that one out. Spell that one for your mom. Or you can follow Let's Go Podcast at Let's Go Podcast on Twitter as well. We took a little bit of a hiatus of shows for like November to February, but we've put some out. We have a new one dropping today, which is probably not the same day this episode's coming out, but we did an overview on the Peacemaker show.
Ooh,
And
nice.
so,
do you
yeah,
really want
but
to? Do
then-
you really want to do that?
yeah. And so we'll have a the Batman show coming as well,
Mhm.
because we're gonna see that in a couple days, and then
There you go.
go do that. Me and Matt Ritchie handling business.
There you
So
go.
check it out.
It's weird to
But I
think.
love being on the Batman Book Club, and
I
one day
love-
I want to be on one of the monthly wrap ups.
Love having you on. Oh, we'll do it. We'll do it with Peter Arvera.
Yeah.
It's weird to think that in time, like right now, as we're talking, we have not seen the
Yeah.
Batman. When this episode drops, we will have seen the Batman.
That's true.
So that's pretty. That's pretty fun.
It was great.
Loved it.
He actually got the Brayfogle car at the end. It's crazy. It's all blue and bubbly.
We can now confirm that weird that the one thing they took out of this for the Riddler was he grabbed a baby and took a knife, and it was
Yeah,
not. I'm kidding.
Oh gosh, what if that actually happens in the movie? We have no idea.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we're in for a rude awakening.
They're all, we went for this like random 90s comic.
Push
Where
that
Batman had to slit a
PG-13.
throat.
We pushed
Yeah.
that PG-13. Good.
Gosh.
If you want to
I'm
follow
glad
the
so
show
hard.
and you aren't already, you can on Twitter at thebatmanbc, where you can find out latest
right.
episode drops, upcoming episodes, and even Batman polls. Go there. When you hear this episode, there will be a new one up. You can also follow on Instagram at thebatmanbc. If you have any questions or comments, concerns, go to Eric Holzman. You can write them to thebatmanbc at gmail.com. I already said at the top of the show, part of Patreon, patreon.com/thebatmanbc. If you want to support the show with some merchandise, some t-shirts with that lovely logo from Justin M.
Ooh.
Kowalski, you can do it at tpublic.com, type TBBC. But if you want to support the show and you don't want to spend any money at all, that's 100% okay. The best thing you can do to help the show is Apple Podcasts. Leave a rate and review on the podcast page. Link to that page in the description of this episode. The more reviews it gets, the more it helps spread the word. And as we all know, the word is panic. There we go.
Right.
All right, so for Lego Lawrence himself, I am Ryan Lauer, and until next
Put it
time,
up.
read more Batman comics.